Hello and welcome to another episode of Thick Slices and Deep Cuts. It's been nearly a year since I did the last episode, which was the best of 2023. And I did want to do my favorite episode of the year, which is a best of. So we've got the best of 2024. It's a great way to kind of realize, was this a good year for music, an okay year for music, or something else? I've got 20 albums I'm going to rank. I had basically my top two, it's 1 and 1A. So I had two albums that really stood out this year, but I've got 20 albums to rank, a couple of other odds and ends to get to after the ranking as well. And like I said, it's been a year since I did a show, but I wanted to keep the show at least, keep the light on for the show, and I always want to do these best ofs year-end reviews. So, but we will get right to it. Again, I've got 20 of these I'm going to go through. And we'll just get going. The first two that I'm going to rank, I don't have physical copies of, but we'll get started. So at number 20, we're going to go with the latest one from Judas Priest, Invincible Shield. This could be somebody's number one. I've listened to it twice all the way through. It sounds great. It picks up right where Firepower left off. Richie Faulkner is incredible. The band is as good as it's ever been. I did a ranking of Judas Priest albums a few years ago on this channel. If I had to rank this album, I don't know. What are my top fives? Like Sad Wings, Painkiller, Stained Class, Screaming for Vengeance, Firepower. I think it definitely is worthy of fitting up in sort of like a top 5, top 7 album. And like I said, I don't know who's doing all the songwriting. I know Andy Sneap's doing the producing and is the other guitar player live, but Richie Faulkner seems to have taken over. And Rob Halford is still bringing it at, I guess he's 75, something like that. And Scott Travis on drums, been killing it since the Painkiller album. So at number 20, Judas Priest, Invincible Shield. Could be ranked higher on many people's lists. My thing is it needed to be ranked. I've only listened to it twice. Sounds killer. I saw him a couple of years ago with Queensryche. And again, they brought it. So there you go. And then the other one coming in at number 19, this is Job for a Cowboy with Moon Healer. So this is, I guess, the follow-up to 2014's Sun Eater, which I really loved. It's super teched out death metal. I guess you could call it progressive. I don't really call it progressive, but it's super teched out death metal, fretless bass in there. Awesome album. I kind of had been waiting for a follow-up to Sun Eater for years and years and years, and it never came. I kind of forgot about him. And here we are 10 years later, and they put out Moon Healer. I do dig it. The only thing I would say is it's too perfect. It's almost sterilized by modern day production quality. Everything's perfectly attached to the grid. Everything is perfect. I don't know what drum samples they used for the drum hits, but it sounds very overly processed. And I usually don't like these modern productions that take all of the grit out of it. However, Job for a Cowboy does such a great technical job, and you do have that fretless bass kind of moving around, and Johnny Davies' excellent death metal vocals over the top. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Job for Cowboy with Moon Healer coming in at 19. All right, moving on. Number 18, Guilty Pleasure album. Not saying this is a great album by anybody else's standards, but for me, I've always loved this band. You've got Nocturnus AD with Unicursal. Kind of cringe at the name of the album, Unicursal, like Universal, but with a curse. But it's, speaking of albums that are modern and polished, this one is modern and not polished. If you like the key, it goes back to 1990. You've got that same vocal approach where it's kind of old school death metal where you're just kind of grunting it out. I don't think they're playing to a click track here at all because it's pretty raw. Pretty gritty, even the guitars and things like that. Sometimes they leave in a little bit of the, you can definitely tell there are 2 guitar tracks. And I do love that, and that's what I love about this album. It's basically, if you like the key, you're going to like this. They try to make it sound just like it came out, how many ever years ago that was, 34 years at this point. They did Paradox 2019, whatever year that was that came out. This is pretty much just like that one, and they all sound like the key. So if you like that kind of raw, classic old school death metal thing with some keyboards and synths for the spacey atmosphere, then you'll dig Nocturnus AD. which is basically Nocturnus. But so there you go. That is coming in at number 18. Okay, coming in at number 17. I'm a big fan of ambient music, especially like the deeper or the darker, kind of ominous ambient music. So at number 17, we've got The Void Wanderer, is an artist out of Poland, doing sort of, I wouldn't call this dark. It's it's deep, it's ominous. It's good for going to bed to. It's kind of meditative as well. It's just good. Like I said, it's just good for going to bed. It's good for maybe relaxing, but it's still interesting enough where your brain's still thinking about stuff, and there's just enough of a melody somewhere in there, inside the air or between the clouds or whatever that sound is that it evokes. This album's also called Empty World, which is kind of, again, ominous, and the cover is very artsy, strange. It's like you're looking out of a window, and it's just all clouds and everything. But that's kind of the vibe you get from this album. So. The Void Wanderer, if you like ambient, kind of ominous, deep, slightly dark, but, somewhere in there, The Void Wanderer with Empty World. Okay, number 16. So occasionally I watch another guy's podcast, Nate Garrett, Big Riff Energy. He apparently fronts a band called Spirit Adrift that I haven't really listened to. Don't know much about him. But I did hear this album called, it's Neon Nightmare with Faded Dream. And they sound just like Typo Negative. Got a picture up in the corner of Peter Steele and Company. And I just thought, okay, this is a band that just a Typo Negative tribute worship band. Sounds just like October Rust on here. Then I find out Nate Garrett is the one that put this together. So this is his other project. And I gotta tell you, he dials it in. I forget the names of is it Love You to Death, the first full track on October Rust. I mean, Lost Silver sounds like that. Some of these sound like, is it In Praise of Bacchus? Or you can hear these songs and go, oh my God, that's that track from October Rust, or that track from, World Coming Down. But this is the best thing I've heard. When Peter Steele died, there's been a musical void. Of no Typo Negative type music. And this really satisfied that, at least for now. So I hope, sounds like he's going to do a follow-up to this too. So that's awesome. This is not super original music, but it's, if you like Typo Negative, this is as close as I've found. He really dialed it in on there. So at number 16 for fans of Typo Negative, you've got Neon Nightmare with Faded Dream. All right, number 15, here's a eclectic prog band out of Sweden, Beardfish, with Songs for Beating Hearts. They put out their last album in 2015 and broke up. And so the fact that they got back together, picked up right where they left off, they haven't changed a thing to their sound, which is rooted more in like a 70s thing, I guess. It's certainly not rooted in like modern, super modern. So, and the other thing I love is the vocalist, Ricard. In the old albums, he was real pitchy. His vocals were pitchy. So most people that don't like this style of music would be like, oh, that singer's terrible. He can't sing in key. But that's kind of his style. And the thing I love here in 2024, where you've got all these, everybody's auto-tuned, he still leaves his voice pitchy. So he's sharp, flat, whatever the case is. Love that. It's got that human element. I don't know if you call that grit, but it's got some of that just human qualities to the music where it's not overproduced or anything like that. So just a good album, picks up right where they left off. If you like kind of, I guess it's 70s, it's modern, but it's using some 70s keyboards and things like that. It can be kind of silly and laughable at times. Other times it can be pretty heavy and bombastic, but mostly it's just good proggy, timeless prog with some songs that are longer, like a 22-minute one, and then others that are more normal length. But there you go. Glad to see them reunite and get back together for another solid album. Songs for Beating Hearts by Beardfish, number 15. Okay, number 14. He's a genius. I love his work. Devin Townsend with Power Nerd. Not much of a cover, no logo or anything like that. This is more of some of his albums, like The Puzzle, confusing. I don't even know what the heck that was. This is more of his straight-ahead rock, hard rock type album. So this is easy to digest. and it's coming in at 14. You'd think it'd be in my top 5 or 6. Some of the songs I don't really, if you don't like the hooks in them, you're probably not going to love it. All these songs are okay. Right in the middle, though, you get the song Gratitude, one of the best songs of the year, or at least one of the catchiest ones. Eubelia, Jainism, right in there. Super catchy. Even my family, who doesn't really get into all this type of music, would hear me playing that and go, what is that catchy song with the hook? The good sonic production that Devin's always known for. And it sounds just like Devin. And the last song, Ruby Quaker, is just a goofy, silly song, so there's even a sense of humor on here that Devin's known for. But he's got another album coming out next year called The Moth, so this is sort of to tide you over until he gets to his big, confusing, confounding album that he's got coming up. So there you go, at number 14, Devin Townsend with Power Nerd. Okay, coming in at number 13, here's a band also from Vancouver. So Devin's from Vancouver. This band's from Vancouver. I had known of them, but never really listened to them until this album came out. But it's Ancients with Beyond the Reach of the Sun. Surprisingly solid album by a band that I never paid attention to, but I probably should have. They do their own thing, but I guess if you like Opeth, the Ghost Reveries era, or Deliverance, or Still Life, one of those albums. It's just got good riffing, good clean vocal mixed in with good barking growl. And sometimes they just, they don't even do the growl. It's just kind of, and I don't even want to call it really progressive. It's just got that epic Opeth-y kind of thing. Some of the songs are a little bit on the longer end of things. They even got a little bit of like a Mastodon in there too. A classic Opeth, a little bit of a Mastodon edge to them. So if you like that kind of stuff, you're going to love this. And since I do, this is pretty much scratches that itch of music I like. So if you haven't already checked these guys out, it's pretty good stuff. Ancients with Beyond the Reach of the Sun. What is that? Number 13. Okay. I guess this could have been ranked higher. This is a good album. And we're talking about a band out of France, Alsace, with Les Chants de l'Aurore. And pardon my French, because I don't know French that well, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of the title. A couple of songs one song title is in English, but everything else is all in French, which is why we love them. This is why we love Neige and company. But this doesn't change. If you like, Écailles de la Lune or Scales of the Moon, forget the one that came out, Le Voyage de l'Âme, Kodama even, any of those albums, probably even Spiritual Instinct, any of that stuff, this doesn't change the formula at all. It's got just a little bit of the black metal growl in a few moments where they do this hyper blasting, but it's usually just as a bedrock for something more melodic and atmospheric. So everything on here is pleasant, melodic, and the last song, L'Adieu, which I assume means goodbye or adieu, really good. Just gets the goosebumps going. It just sounds good. It's kind of got that emotional quality to it that Alsace is just great with. So another solid album from them. I don't know why it's number 12. If this was in my top 10, I wouldn't be surprised, but right around like 14 through about 7, they're all pretty interchangeable. But I did want to mention this is a top album of the year. That's Alsace with Les Chants de l'Aurore, or something close to that. All right, number 11. Here's a band out of Oslo, Norway, and they're not black metal. And when I say I love the 70s sound and I love Pink Floyd, well, there's only so many times you can listen to the same Pink Floyd albums over and over before you've heard them too many times. But fear not, there is a band that sounds just like Pink Floyd, and they're called Airbag. And this is called The Century of the Self. Yes, the name of the band is ridiculous, and the album cover is absolutely stupid. And they're going for that. They want their name to be dumb. They want these album covers to be, just look at that. like they didn't even give an effort. But I'll say this, musically they do give an effort, and Bjorn Reese, the guitar player, dead ringer for David Gilmour. In fact, he might do David Gilmour better than David Gilmour does David Gilmour solos. This is a band that absolutely, they have that sort of the negativity in the lyrics, but it's all done in a pleasant way, just like Pink Floyd did. And the songs, you're waiting for the guitar solos after the nice, slow to mid-paced, kind of melodic, kind of, there's something kind of ominous going on, a little bit negative in the lyrics, but it sounds nice, it sounds pleasant, and then boom, they hit you with these great guitar solos. So if you like Pink Floyd from like Wish You Were Here, Animals, right in there, you'll like this. This sounds a lot like their previous album, so they haven't changed, they haven't strayed from their sound very much at all. In fact, they're very consistent. Their first album may have been a little Porcupine Tree-ish, mixed with Pink Floyd, but pretty much since the early days, they found what they're good at, and they've kind of pretty much stuck to it. So there you go, at number 11, Airbag out of Norway with The Century of the Self. Okay, number 10. This guy is criminally overlooked. Nobody knows who he is. That's Thrailkill with Unperson. This is Mastermind Wes Thrailkill on guitar. It's all instrumental, super technical. It's like modern fusion mixed with a little bit of djent. Not that he's down tuned. I think everything's in standard, 6-string, maybe tuned to D, but it's all standard. But it's just got these crazy syncopated things, and it's just got metal that's so advanced and colorful, and I don't know what kind of modes and scales he's using, but that's why I mentioned fusion. And a lot of it is done with the clean channel guitar, and then kind of kicks into the crunchier one for dynamics or to switch rhythm. So if you like all that technical clean channel guitar playing with exotic chords and things and time changes all over the place, you'll love this. It sounds like all the other albums he's done prior to this. Not sounds just like, but it's a continuation, a refined improvement over what he's already accomplished. And I saw him open up, it's now been 7 years, he opened up for Haken. And I went there to see Haken, wasn't really paying attention to the opening band, and saw his band out there just throwing down and playing all kinds of stuff. And everybody had a headless guitar at the time, which we've all seen headless guitars, but his whole band had headless guitars. Haken comes out, they're all playing headless Steinbergs. I think he's got a headless Kiesel. And I just was like, okay, so this is the new wave of musicians. They're using the modern headless guitar equipment. But yeah, he's one of the great guitar players that nobody knows about. So if you have a chance, at least check it out. Thrailkill with Unperson. Okay, number 9. Let's see if I can pronounce this one. German word, not French, but German. We've got Weite, which is W-E-I-T-E. Which I guess means vast, and their album Osa, or that's German for Oasis, and this is a project of Nick DeSalvo of Elder. So he moved from the US over to Berlin, Germany, and has these projects going with his other guitar player from Elder and some other guys here. And this is really good instrumental, proggy 70s. It sounds like something from like 74, 75, 76. Right in there, and it's, let's see, a couple of songs. Time Will Paint Another Picture is really good. Roter Traum. So half these titles are in German, half not. But just if you like instrumental proggy music from the mid-70s done in the modern day, you'll dig this. So Weite with Osa, or Oasis is the translation. Okay, coming in at number 8. Back into the ominous ambient world, we've got Alpha Zone with Interdimensional. He is on, much like the previous, the Void Wanderer one, he's on the Cryo Chamber label. There's their logo, Cryo Chamber. This one is, again, I guess it's dark. I don't know if that's what he's going for, but it's definitely ominous, and it's definitely spacey and out there. You've got Astro Void, Space Particles, Temporal Vortex, Starfields, Omnipresent, Dimension Zero. Those are the song titles. It's just really good sonically. And again, another one I go to bed listening to. Just sounds good. It doesn't do too much. It doesn't get in the way, so it just allows the vibe or the atmosphere to do its thing. Unbelievable, this guy, Alpha Zone. He is from Tehran, Iran. You would not know that listening to the music, but he is from Tehran, and he's pumping out just awesome stuff. I don't know how many of his albums I own, but he's basically an auto buy, because when he puts something out, it's just going to be good. It's going to be good. So far, I think this is my favorite work of his. It just sounds like, again, he's refining his sound, and sonically, it's just getting a little bit better every time out. So there you go. If you have a chance to get into anything ambient, I would suggest Alpha Zone. And you can start with Interdimensional, which is what, number 8. Number 8, and then going to number 7, another ambient album, also off the Cryo Chamber label. So ambient album of the year, I guess. God Body Disconnect with Dreams to be Buried in. Just absolutely incredible. He does Bruce. He does these spoken word things. He sounds like he's out of like The Godfather or Goodfellas, I guess. He's out of Goodfellas. He does these really down and out spoken word things that just make you feel like he's on the verge of something terrible happening to him. And then it just drifts into these like dream sequences of songs with they're songs. Maybe it's just two ideas, but it's bringing like a nice vague airy melody, and somehow that vague melody hooks into another vague melody, and you're just left going, wow, that really hit the spot. Again, great stuff to go to bed to. I can't recommend him enough. I probably can't describe it properly, but I would just check out his most recent work and work backwards. Everything he does is great, but pretty much he just continues to refine his sound, hone it in. So Dreams to be Buried in, God Body Disconnect. All right, number 6, we mentioned Nick DeSalvo of Elder and his project Vita. Well, Nick DeSalvo does one all himself. It's called Delving, and this album is called All Paths Diverge. Band name is Delving. You probably can't even read that. Delving. I didn't even know he had a first album out in 2021. I found all this out accidentally this year. So 3 years after his debut side project album comes out, I listened to it. Sounds great. Love it. Then find out, oh, he's got another album about to drop. So that was a great find. To find out that he had this project for 3 years you didn't even know about, that album sounds great. And in a couple of months he's got a second album. Again, instrumental, all instrumental. The difference between this and Vita is this is more experimental. This is not necessarily drilling down into the 70s, although it still has that Elder, that sort of timeless guitar tone. So if you like Elder, you're going to like this. But he does experiment a little bit more with some other sounds, maybe some more modern sounds, or maybe just doing things you'd never hear Elder do or that other project Vita do. But just really good proggy instrumental stuff. So there you go, Delving with All Paths Diverge coming in at number 6. All right, number 5. Opeth, The Last Will and Testament. I'm a little bummed out they don't have the logo on here, or at least that iconic O. But Last Will and Testament just came out. I think we all heard a couple of the tracks before. It was finally released here about a month ago. I don't know if it's one of my all-time favorite Opeth albums yet. It's going to take a long time to kind of digest it. I still don't know totally what to think, but I do like how it's more concise. All these songs are 5, 6, 7 minutes long. They don't really dwell on riffs like they did way back in the day, so they kind of get to it. It's got a spooky, haunting, King Diamond-y kind of vibe to it, with the concept of the old rich man who dies. Takes place like 100 years ago. He dies. The lyrics are each paragraph of the will, and you find out who gets what and who's related, who isn't related, and there's some twists and turns. Guitar solos from Frederick Augustin are off the chart. The new drummer sounds great. Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull, I think he's like 77, but he's doing a lot of the spoken word for the old man who's passed. So when they're reading pieces from the Last Will, it's Ian Anderson's voice, and he provides at least 1 or 2 flute solos on here. So Ian Anderson's input and fingerprints are all over a dark Opeth album, so I think that's pretty cool. It's a lot to digest. Michael Ockerfeldt, just complex song structures and ideas. So I'm still digesting it a month into it, but right now I've got it at number 5 for the year. Opeth with The Last Will and Testament. Okay. Surprisingly, at number 4, this is a band I wouldn't say I never got into. I did way back in the beginning, and then didn't forever, and then stumbled upon them this year and love it. And it's number 4, and that's Darkthrone out of Norway. Just again, I go back to like they've got a gritty sound. I love that. Just a very human element, a gritty sound. Production's great, but they leave the grit in there, and this just sounds like classic metal. This has, I don't know if it has anything to do with black metal. It just sounds like classic heavy metal. It almost sounds like with Nocturno Culto's new vocal approach, which I understand some people hate it. I can see that, although I dig it. I think it works great with the music because the music sounds like a really polished version of like Celtic Frost, like Morbid Tales or something, but with a really polished playing. And not even polished, there's still grit, but just imagine if Celtic Frost on Morbid Tales really knew how to play their instruments at that point and knew how to really, get more to like to Megatherian type song structures. Well, on this, they definitely get out there with some of the songs like Black Dawn Affiliation, The Bird People of Nordland. And in that moment, I knew the answer. That is the name of the song title. Just a really cool album from start to finish. Not that long, 44 minutes or something like that. So just a really good listen. I need to go back and listen to the album before this, and once I digest that one, go back and probably start working my way back. I know they've gone through a few phases over the years. I had, still do, A Blaze in the Northern Sky on cassette. Back in the day, that was creepy at the time. Then I got Soulside Journey, which is, more like, even though they're from Norway, it's like Swedish death metal style. But yeah, this is really good. This has really nothing to do with black metal, but it sounds good. It's got that grit, and it's just got riffs that I like. And it just sounds like old Celtic Frost a little bit. So there you go. Number 4, pleasant surprise, Darkthrone, with It Beckons Us All. All right, number 3. The album is called Ocean Without a Shore from Weather Systems. Weather Systems may as well say anathema, because this is Daniel Kavanagh writing the music and singing. He apparently wrote most of the music for Anathema when they were still technically a band. Daniel Cardoso, who was their keyboardist, is now their drummer. So you've got old Anathema people in the band. And I guess, again, key is Daniel Kavanagh is still there. He wrote most of the old music, so this sounds just like Anathema, where they left off. And he sings and sounds a lot like his brother Vincent, so that helps. And they had a female singer, Lee Douglas, who's not in the band, but they found a female singer who sounds a lot like her. So all the elements that you love about the band are back in place, and they're using them. The first track, I wasn't sure, because it kind of has like a Tool thing going on, but man, after that, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just rolls on, just sounding like classic Anathema, who I've missed Anathema. They hadn't put out an album in 7 years until this came out, so hits the spot for me. Fans of Anathema already know about this. But at number 3, what a pleasant surprise, Weather Systems with Ocean Without a Shore. All right, so we're down to the final 2. These are both this is 1 and 1A. These are both my number 1s. And they're very different from each other. So I'm going to rank this as number 2, but it's basically 1A. Coming out of the UK, you've got Frost with Life in the Wires. Double disc studio. CD1, you just play it. Everything's super catchy. Jem Godfrey is kind of the mastermind behind this project. He, in his day job, is a producer, engineer for pop artists in the UK. So we're talking, whatever the pop artists are over there, he's producing and engineering them. But so he has this knowledge, this modern pop, modern sophisticated ways of recording in the studio knowledge. Then he applies that to his progressive rock band. And what you get are just these progressive tunes, sonically incredible, like just ear candy everywhere, super catchy. They don't waste any time. and they have the hooks. So that's the other thing. So they're progressive and they have the hooks. Just keep you going, wow. There's a song, Evaporator. Might be my favorite song of the year. Just super catchy. Again, the family who doesn't listen to this stuff likes this album. For the hooks, the catchiness, the sonic sounding, the quality. And as weird and progressive as it can be, it never goes too, it never alienates you with how bizarre it is. But it definitely gets out there. And he's a keyboard player, so a lot of times I'm hearing the riff going, that's a pretty cool guitar riff, and then you start listening, you're like, I think that's a synthesizer. So he's powering a lot of it with his vocals and with his keyboard is where a lot of the stuff is coming from. So just a great album. Frost, Life in the Wires, coming in at 2, or what I would like to call 1A for 2024. And so there is only one left, and I'd like to think that I have tastes that are unique to everyone, but this is a lot of people's number one for the year. So, not surprisingly, if you like ambient music and death metal and progressive rock, you're going to dig the new Blood Incantation, Absolute Elsewhere, a couple of 20-plus minute tracks. Even got the art book so I could get they have a documentary, and then they have like an ambient CD that goes with it. Everything in surround sound. So, what can I say about Blood Incantation? I didn't think they were going to be able to outdo Hidden History of the Human Race because it had a charm to it that I just didn't think they could recapture. And boy, was I wrong. They recaptured it, and then they've added so many elements. They've got they recorded in Germany. There's a band I ranked, love them, prog rock band, Eloy. They got parts in their in the Stargate that sound just like Eloy from like Ocean or Dawn or one of those albums. They got a whole Tangerine Dream part that's in here. When they've got tons of proggy moments, tons of ambient moments, and they still have plenty of that classic death metal. So I played in Time Ghoul. I loved Immolation, Incantation, Morbid Angel, you name it. Any of those classic death metal bands with all the little pinch harmonics and everything else, and just rifling double bass and all that. They still have plenty of that on here, and it's raw enough. I'm sure that they've used some modern technology to keep things cleaned up, but it still feels raw. There's still some grit on this album for sure. So this, to me, again, scratching that itch. This album just continues to scratch whatever the itch is for music that I have. This seems to satisfy it, much like whatever itch I have for catchy music, the Frost one seems to satisfy. So there you go. Number one for this year, Blood Incantation with Absolute Elsewhere. And so real quick to recap, if I can pull this off. Number 20, you've got Judas Priest with Invincible Shield. At number 19, we've got Job for a Cowboy with Moon Healer. At number 18, we've got Nocturnus AD with Unicursal. At number 17, you've got The Void Wanderer with Empty World. Number 16, Neon Nightmare with Faded Dream. Number 15, Beardfish with Songs for Beating Hearts. Number 14, Devin Townsend with Power Nerd. Number 13, Ancients with Beyond the Reach of the Sun. Number 12, Alsace with their French-titled album Les Chants de l'Aurore. Number 11, Airbag with The Century of the Self. Number 10, we've got Thrailkill with Unperson. Number 9, Vita with Osa or Oasis. Number 8, Alpha Zone with Interdimensional. Number 7, Godbody Disconnect with Dreams to be Buried in. Number 6, Delving with All Paths Diverge. Number 5, Opeth with The Last Will and Testament. Number 4, Dark Throne with It Beckons Us All. Number 3, Weather Systems with Ocean Without a Shore. And then 2 or 1A, you've got Frost, Life in the Wires. And number 1, Blood Incantation with Absolute Elsewhere. All right, so overall, it's good to do these lists because you don't really know how good the year is musically. And especially probably through the first 6, 7, 8 months of the year, I was thinking this isn't going to be a good year. But when you reflect on it and you look at what came out, I would say at minimum it's still a decent year. So that was good. A couple other odds and ends. Well, before I show these, a couple albums that didn't make the list, mainly because I just didn't have enough time to dig into them more. There's a band out of Norway, Vamad, with The Deepening. kind of atmospheric black metal. Not really black metal to be dark, more as a setting for an atmosphere or a vibe. Kind of like Alsace or Fen or one of these types of bands. They're on Prophecy Productions. It seems like a lot of those bands have that sort of quality to them. I liked what I heard. I've only listened to it a couple times. Nile, I haven't gotten into it, but I love Nile. Cannibal Corpse, same thing. Deicide, same thing. Intervals, Aaron Marshall's instrumental, proggy, fusiony metal band. Haven't had a chance to listen to that too much. They came out of that gent scene back in the day and have just evolved into a really technical instrumental. If you like Thrailkill or bands like that, you'll probably dig Intervals. Re-recordings. Pestilence did a re-recording. Levels of Perception. I don't know what the point of that was, because all of the original recordings sound vastly superior. I don't know if he was trying to make them sound kind of raw. I don't know what the point of that was. But I love Pestilence, so I don't want to rip on them too much. Cavalera, re-recording Schizophrenia. The Cavalera brothers, the real Sepultura, re-recording that. Normally I don't like re-recordings of albums that already sound awesome, but somehow they pulled it off. I love the re-recording. Would never get rid of the original recording, but do dig the re-recording. And this came out, more ambient stuff, more great meditative stuff to go to bed to. Mount Shrine with the Mount Hibiki tapes. It's 3 CDs. The only reason I didn't rank this in the top 20 is because he passed away in 2021, and Simon Heath at the Cryo Chamber label was cool enough to get these recordings and master them and get them out to the public. I was aware that these existed probably as far back as 2020 and listened to them, but they never stuck with me. And now maybe it's due to the mastering that Simon Heath did, but they sound excellent. And I thought maybe this was just kind of the bottom of the barrel of Mount Shrine. Not the case. This is of high quality too. So since Mount Shrine passed away, unfortunately, Simon and the Cryo Chamber label have been able to get out one more album proper and a 5-disc set last year, which was incredible. And then now this 3-disc set. So that's pretty cool. Mount Shrine. I definitely urge everybody to go check him out if you like, atmospheric ambient music. And then Elder, probably my favorite new band going, they're not new, but a band that's not named Opeth. But Elder, they just put out this live EP of 3 songs in the BBC studios, but 1,000 Hands. This live version, I'm already digging more than the studio version, which I've been digging for years now. Lore is another big, awesome song. Merged in Dreams. Go on YouTube and find them playing this live on top of a mountain in the Swiss Alps. It's incredible. Elder, they sound great live on here. What else? Oh, the band I got into this year. And we all know their big hits. So it's not like I didn't know this band and I didn't know their big hits. But when you do a deep dive, the deep cut dive into all of their albums, especially like the first 20 years of their career, I was amazed at how much I dug it. And we're talking about the Scorpions. We're talking about from the first album with Michael Schenker to all the Uli Roth stuff to when Matthias got in the band and all the way, I guess, into the very early 90s. And at some point you're like, okay, it just kind of got off the rails. But man, the 70s, 80s, and you could even, that first 20-year period, that they had a lot of good stuff mixed in with songs that maybe we don't want to hear anymore. But boy, if you skip around the greatest hits songs, you can find all kinds of good stuff. So maybe in the future, I'll try and rank the first 20 years of them. Last but not least, only went to 4 concerts this year, which seems like a low number for me. Voivod and Prong. I had never seen Voivod live. I'd never seen Prong live, and I saw them in just a hole-in-the-wall bar in downtown St. Louis in front of maybe 200 people. It was like just standing right there, looking at Dan Mongrain on guitar, and Rocky on bass, and the 2 original guys were obviously there throwing down. That was pretty cool. Prong was cool. I dug them way back in the day when they had Beg to Differ and all those albums. So that was cool. I saw Al Di Meola in like a bar. It was like a jazz thing. You sit down at a table, order drinks, and you sit and you watch him and his band perform. It was kind of strange. And we saw the first of 2 shows. So he played for like an hour, and I guess they were going to do a nightcap show. It was very different setup than what I'm accustomed to, but it was cool. I flew to Denver, Colorado just to see Testament, Creator, and Possessed. By far the best show of the year. I mean, that is just scratching an itch. That up-tempo, high-octane thrashing is incredible. And Possessed were awesome. They walked that line between death and thrash, which I love. And Creator is so polished as a band. You can tell they've been killing it for decades. They were great. And Testament, I mean, what else can you say about Testament? Chuck Billy still bringing it. They played all the songs were all from the first two albums. So that was awesome. And then finally, right after that, I saw King Diamond with Overkill. Actually, I think I saw King Diamond first. I think that's how that worked. I think I saw 2 shows within a week. And saw King Diamond and Overkill. And then went out and saw Testament, Creator, and Possessed. So those were the concerts. So there you go. That is the year in review for 2024. I would say when it was all said and done, we had a lot of good albums come in like September, October, November that brought the year up to at least a decent year, if not a pretty good year. So that, I believe, covers it. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.